to find some doctrinal belief or a textual verse on about a matter. Someone that's hurting, you try to find some healing verses for them. People that are losing wisdom or lack discernment or just plain haughty or weird or whatever, any circumstance in your life and in my life, we ought to be thinking spiritual. We ought to be thinking what the Bible has to say about it. And so a lot of times we don't really do that. Our troubles are in no comparison to Job's troubles. Look at Job chapter 5. Job chapter 5, look at verse 7. Yet man is born unto trouble as the sparks fly upward. And so you're not going to change that. You're born into trouble, unto trouble. Look at Job chapter 14. You're born into trouble. Verse 1, man that is born of a woman is of a few days and full of trouble. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter number 2. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2. Look at verse 7. I got me servants and maidens and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle above all that were in Jerusalem before me. 17. Chapter 2, verse 17. Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me, for all is vanity and vexation of spirit. And so if you've ever read the book of Ecclesiastes, the number one word that shows up and time again is vanity. A lot of times in our life it's trouble. Look at verse 23. For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. Who can eat, or else who can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This is also is vanity and vexation of spirit. So this morning or this evening, how do we handle trouble? You know, a lot of times if we're in pain, a lot of times what we do is we go grab the aspirin, or we go grab the ibuprofen, or we go grab the over-the-counter drug, whatever it is. And really the bummer part about the Christian life is there is no other than one over-the-counter drug that you can use in a spiritual life. There is no spiritual drug that you can use over the counter other than a King James Bible. There's no opioid addiction. There's none of that, but the Bible. And so Job never lost sight of that. Job had a lot of troubles. Look at John chapter 16. You know, it boggles me that some people that will go through life with trouble and know there's a remedy and know there's a cure and know that there is a help, but they don't want it. And they won't do anything about it. They'll look for any other way possible in the other direction rather than the one direction they know to be true and to be factual. We're the same way. We don't go to the same restaurant if they have terrible food. We don't go to the same store that gives us bad customer service. We don't deal with a certain person who is always negative and always upsetting and always has something else to say. We don't do that. We always go the different way that even though sometimes that trouble is what we ought to face, and we don't face it. Look at John chapter 16, look at verse 33. These things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. In the world you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world. That's what you're going to have. He's giving you two options. You can have me, or you can have the world. You can have peace, or you can have tribulation. But a lot of times in our own life and in Job's life or in anyone else's, we always choose the other end. We hardly ever choose peace. Not knowingly. Not knowingly. Knowingly, we know that Lord is peace and God gives us peace. But a lot of times we get outside of that and we get messed up and we go towards that tribulation. And so Job had a lot of troubles, and our troubles, none of us get out of here untouched and unscathed by trouble. You cannot leave this world saying, hey, I've never experienced trouble before. I've never touched tribulations before. You won't. You know, troubles will do one of two things. It will, number one, they can drive you to God. If you understand that the Lord is in control of all of your life, look at Job chapter 1. They can drive you to God. This afternoon, we went over to the lake, and I didn't want to drive. And so I let Jersey's little brother drive my truck. And I said, you can drive, man. Here's the way. Just don't wreck my truck. And he drove, and he had a good time and stuff. But you know what? It was nice to be able to just not drive. A lot of times in our life, we get so used to driving that I'm driving all the time. My wife never drives. If I'm in the car, she hardly ever drives. If she's driving, I'm like itching to drive because it just scares me. I don't know why. There's nothing on bad. She's not a bad driver. She's a better driver than me, that's for sure. But I don't know. It's just a matter of control. We hardly ever let someone else drive our life. Look at Job chapter 5, verse 7. Yet man is born into trouble as the sparks fly upward. Look at Job chapter 1. Sorry, not chapter 5. Job chapter 1. Look at verse 6. Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Wait a minute. What? They're going to present themselves to the Lord, and look what happens. What does that tell you? You're going to present yourself to the Lord. You're going to do a good thing, but guess what? Satan's going to be there. Verse 7, and the Lord said unto Satan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And Satan answered the Lord and said, doth Job fear God for naught? Hast not thou made an hedge about him and about his house and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. You know, a lot of times, look at verse 12. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord. You know, I have a note in my Bible, you ought to hold what you have in this life with loose hands. You ought to, because you're not guaranteed it. You don't get to have it. You don't get to keep it. It's not yours. You know, Job, look at Job chapter 2, look at verse 1. Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. There he is again. And the Lord said unto Satan, from whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro, and from walking upon down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, hast thou considered my servant Job? And there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, and one that feareth God and escheweth evil. And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, skin for skin, yet all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth not thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, he will curse thee to thy face. The Lord said unto Satan, and behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So went Satan forth from the presence of the Lord and smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. From top to bottom, he's calling him out. From top to bottom, Job is still driven to God. He doesn't leave him. He has boils from the top of his feet. I have blisters on my hands. You know how hard it is to wash your hands with open blisters or to put lotion on? or put hair gel. Oh, ow. You know, it hurts. I can't imagine having blisters from head to toe and being able to take a shower, being able to do any type of maintenance on the body. But you know what? Job never changed it. You know, if the Lord is in control of all your life, he is in control of Job's life, then you can rest in the sure knowledge that God is in control of all that has come to pass. Look at Romans chapter 8. I love it. I love the verse. Have you ever got to the point in your Bible where it says, and it shall come to pass? And you just stop there and you're saying, I'm glad it does come to pass. I'm glad it goes away. You know, this coronavirus thing or whatever the problem that we're going through, whatever it is, the politic agenda, whatever, the government agenda, whatever it is, you know what? It's going to come to pass. Romans chapter 8, verse 28, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and to them who are called according to his purpose. The verse doesn't stop. We know that all things work together for good. The verse doesn't stop there. The new versions make it stop there. All the quotes, all the t-shirts, everything all around the whole world is, I can do all things through Christ. I can, all good, all things work together for good. And you know, they always stop right there and they don't hold on to the last part of that verse. To them who are called according to his purpose. Or the ones that love God. You know, a lot of Job loved him. Job loved God and he had full control. So number one, it'll do, they can drive you to God, and very deep tonight, they can drive you away from God. Our troubles will either make us or break us. And you know, a lot of times it turns out to break us. You know, but that shouldn't stop us. You know, a lot of times it breaks us, but you know what? We're broken. We still need the healing. We still need to get healed. So we're not left there. There's no more hope after being broken. Job's troubles, Job's temptations. When these events occurred in Job's life, he was faced with certain temptations. These are the same temptations we all face when trouble haunts us. Number one is he could have blamed God. Look at Job chapter 1. A lot of times we blame God for certain things. A lot of times we throw it on him like he can do it, like it's his fault. I don't know what else to say to that. I know you can cast your cares upon him. He'll take care of them, but it doesn't say blame God. You know, he could have. Look at Job chapter 1, verse 11. Put forth thine hand now and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. You know why the Satan said that? It's because he's seen it happen. I believe it. He's seen it happen throughout the earth, that's what has happened. God has touched, or the devil has touched a man, and they turned around and they cursed God. And you see it throughout the world. You see a pastor, for instance, that I know, a pastor's wife died and he bails on God. Doesn't want nothing to do with him. All because of what? All because she passed away. A lot of times that's the reason. Well, he could have done this and he could have done that and he could have. But what did he do? And so a lot of times the temptations will be there. You know, look at chapter 2, verse 5. We're going to go through some verses here. But put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. Look at chapter 8 of Job. Look at verse 1. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, how long wilt thou speak these things, and how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doth God pervert judgment? Or doth the Almighty pervert justice? No. If thy children have sinned against him and have cast them away for their transgression, if thou wouldest seek unto God betimes and make thyself to the Almighty, if thou wert pure and upright, surely now he would awake for thee and make the habitation of the righteousness prosperous. Look at verse 7. Though thy beginning was small, yet the latter end should greatly increase. You know, a lot of times, look at verse 8. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself just to the search of their fathers. You know, there's some times in our life where we think it all is going to work out when we get older. His friends called and said that it was his fault. His friends blamed him for it. The reason why you've done all this is because there's some sort of problem that you have in your life. One of the great benefits of suffering is that it reveals the true character of the people around you. Job's friends, the Bible says they came to comfort him in chapter 2. What comfort was that? That wasn't any comfort. I don't want friends that ain't going to give me that kind of comfort. I don't want that. All they did was level one attack after the other at poor old Job. Look at what they said to him. Look at chapter 2 verse 11. This is a friend that has already been there and has already done that. Look at verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. For they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept and rent every one upon their heads toward heaven. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that he was grief and was very great. His grief was very great. Number 1 is Eliphaz. This man is a testimonial experience. He's already been there and done that. No matter what you go through, the kind of person has had it worse. Anybody know of anyone like that? I sure do. Look at Proverbs chapter 18. You know what's going to happen? Men are going to fail you. Friends are going to mess you up. But can I tell you there's one that won't? Proverbs chapter 18. There's one that's not. Look at verse 24. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly, and there is a friend sticketh closer than a brother. You know the verse. But you know what? Job had a better friend than them 3 friends. He in Job chapter 4, he flatters Job. Look at Job chapter 4. He flatters him. I don't need a friend that's going to flatter me. I need a friend that's going to beat me down with honesty. Look at verse 3. Behold, thou hast instructed many, and thou hast strengthened thy weak hands. Thy words have upholden him that was falling, and thou hast strengthened the feeble knees. But now it has come upon thee, and thou faintest. It toucheth thee, and thou art troubled. Is not this thy fear for thy confidence, thy hope, and thy uprightness of thy ways? Remember, I pray thee, who ever perished, being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off? Even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity and sow wickedness reap the same. By the blast of God they perish, and by the breath of his nostrils are they consumed. The roaring of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The old lion perisheth for lack of prey, and the stout lion's whelps are scattered abroad. Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. And thoughts from the vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth on man. You know, Eliphaz has been there. He said, I've seen. He's that type of person that's I've seen it. I've seen it work. Trust me, I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, I've seen this work. I've seen this miracle drug work. Fire alarm just came off my Humboldt. But you know what? There's that friend that's always going to be that just flatters you. Look at verse 5. But now it has come upon thee, and thou faintest, and toucheth thee, and thou art troubled. Now he flogs Job. He accuses of him of hypocrisy. Verse 8. Even as I have seen that they plow iniquity and sow wickedness, reap the same. There's a weakness there. Verse 6. Is not this thy fear, thy confidence, thy hope, and thy uprightness of thy ways? Faintest, verse 5. there's weakness there. Now here comes now he starts to point out some apparent in his eyes. You know, the wicked always say that they can. Have you ever thought about it? The wicked people, the lost people out there, they can find the wicked in your life, but they can't find the wicked in their life. They'll be the first one to tell you what's wrong in your life, but they won't take any of the advice and apply it to their life. My family's like that. My family's like, oh, you don't know anything about it. You're the golden child. You're the little preacher boy. What does that have to do with anything? It doesn't have to do with nothing. Just the fact that you're just pointing it out because you're seeing some sort of raise there that isn't there. You know, he shows him the wickedness, that there's wickedness there, verse 7. Remember, I pray thee, whoever perish being innocent, or where were the righteous cut off. He's likened Job to himself. But Job is nowhere near like Eliphaz. But you know, in his sadness, and his weariness, and his weakness and mind, and his low of heart, you know what he's thinking? He's thinking it. Now Job is thinking he is just like Eliphaz. Now he floors him. Look at verse 12. Now a thing was secretly brought to me, and mine ear received a little thereof. Then a spirit passed, verse 15, then a spirit passed before my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern the form thereof, and an image was before mine eyes. There was silence, and I heard a voice saying, shall mortal man be more just than God? Shall a man be more pure than his maker? You know what that verse today is? That verse today is, yeah, man can be better than God. I'll show you how. Look at my fancy technology. Look at my cure for cancer. Look at my cure for this. I'm better than God. You know, and let me just tell you right now, any person that gets to that point, think they got it more than God, they're down. They're in deep trouble that they don't even know what to do with. Verse 20, they are destroyed from morning to even. They perish forever without regarding it. Man, you know, a lot of times, look at chapter 5, look at verse 13. We're kind of breezing through Job here, but look at verse 13. Chapter 5, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong. They meet with darkness in the daytime, and grope in the noonday as in the night. That grope, most of you know what that word means. That if you don't know what it means, you can mark it down in your Bible. That means to search, to find. They're searching in the noonday as in the night. They're looking for that wickedness. They're looking for that darkness. They're looking for that froward and that craftiness. They're looking for it. Eliphaz goes as far as to call Job an old windbag. There is more, but who needs a friend like that? Look at number two friend is Bildad, the man that of the traditional explanation. Look at chapter 8 of Job. I don't know if you've ever done this before, and you break down the three friends and you start to figure out what's all happening. I don't know if you've ever done it, but it'd be a good study. You know, that's right there, and I've said it before, that's the shortest man in the Bible. He's a shoe height. He's not real tall. And so if he's not real tall, that means he doesn't know much, right? He's low to ground. He doesn't get a lot of noise. You're welcome for that joke, by the way. Look at chapter 8, verse 2. And then give verse 1 to show who's talking. Then answered Bildad the Shuhite and said, how long wilt thou speak these things? How long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Doth his attack. He calls Job an old windbag. It's just nothing but air, nothing but strong wind. That's it. You're nothing anymore. You're not any better than me. Not having his first friend with him. Man, Eliphaz didn't give him any comfort at all. He lowered Job to Eliphaz's state, and now Bildad is tacking on to it and telling him that he's nothing but air. He's nothing but wasted breath. Look at verse 3. Doth God pervert judgment, or doth the Almighty pervert justice, if thy children have sinned against him and have cast them away for their transgression? if thou wouldest seek unto God betimes and make thy supplication to the Almighty. He's given all these traditional explanations of what you could have done, Job, like you know any better. Look at verse where was I? Look at verse 6. If thou wert pure and upright, surely now he would awake for thee and make the habitation of thy righteousness prosperous. Though thy beginning was small, yet the latter end shall greatly increase. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to search of their fathers. Look at verse 9. For we are but of yesterday, and know nothing. He's not old enough, because our days upon the earth are a shadow. You know, a lot of times and I'm not kicking any old age here, but I'm saying some older crowd, they know there's a difference between now and then. Then you got beat in the street and no one called the cops. Now you get beat in the street and everybody comes. They're so worried the neighbors are so into your own business, you can't even flick a booger. You can't let your grass grow longer than the person next door to you before someone else starts saying something. I'm that way. Everywhere I go, I feel like the Lord has put me in a place where I have that one neighbor who does their yard all day, every day, and looks to me like, you young whippersnapper don't know what you're doing, and blah, blah, you lazy millennial. And so it gets me mad. And so I'll do it probably twice a week, and just to shut them up, because I can see it in their eyes, just what they're thinking. I know that's not what they're thinking, but it's my conscience, because I don't want to not upkeep yard. It just looks tacky. It's just me. But you know, he attacks Bildad attacks in verse 2 of chapter 8. How long wilt thou speak the things, and how long shall the words of thy mouth be like a strong wind? Nothing but air. How long is he going to give? He calls Job out. Bildad says that all things happened to Job because he was a bad fellow. And you keep reading through on to verse 22. Look at verse 12. Whilst it is yet in the greenness, and not cut down, it wherewith before any other herb. So are the paths of all that forget God. And the hypocrite's hope shall perish. What did I tell you earlier? Now, Eliphaz was calling him a hypocrite. And now, Bildad's jumping on board with it. Verse 14, whose hope shall be cut off, and whose trust shall be a spider's web. Who shall lean upon his house, but it shall not stand. He shall hold it fast, but it shall not endure. He is green before the sun, and his branch shooteth forth in his garden. His roots are wrapped about the heap, and seeth the place of the stones. If it destroy him from his place, then it shall deny him, saying, I have not seen thee. Behold, this is the joy of his way, and out of the earth shall others grow. But God will not cast away a perfect man, neither will he help the evildoers. That's not true. He did help him. He laid down his son. He laid down his life. He did the best way he knew how to help him. Not yet, but yeah, he did. Till he filled thy mouth with laughing and thy lips with rejoicing. That's salvation. Ain't it? That's rejoicing. That's being saved. What do you mean he didn't do anything? Next verse, he gave him salvation. Didn't even know it. Then they that hate thee shall be clothed with shame, and the dwelling place of the wicked shall come to naught. He makes his appeal to him and says, you're no different. It's all because you're a bad guy, Job. You thought you were an upright man. You thought you're all great and fanny and this awesome guy. You're no different than me. You're no different than a hypocrite. And you've done nothing. Number 3, Zophar, the man of total estimation. He looks at the situation and simply tells Job that he needs to repent of his sins and get right with God. And then these things wouldn't happen. In fact, he tells Job that Job is getting far less than he deserves. Look at Job chapter 11. Have you ever had that happen before? And you know, a lot of times we give into that. We give in and say, yeah, there is something in my life. But then if you know your life well enough, you know that there's nothing wrong in your life. But you doubt it. And you start giving into that. And you start getting into that small voice that says you're nothing but a nothing. You give into that and you start getting, woe is me. And you start getting lower and lower and lower, and you'll find yourself out. All because you listen to someone who thought they had good advice. And to come to find out, they had no advice. Look at Job chapter 11, verse 1. Then answered Zophar the Naamathite and said, should not the multitude of the words be answered? And should a man full of talk be justified? Should thy lies make men hold their peace? When thou mockest, shall no man make thee ashamed? For thou hast said, my doctrine is pure, and I am clean in thine eyes. He's comparing himself now. He's compared himself to Job. You're no different, man. You are not cleaner than Job. But oh that God would speak and open his lips against thee. And now he's blasting God, saying God's not talking to you. God won't talk to you at all. Look at verse 6. And that he would show thee the secrets of wisdom, and that they are double to that which is. Know therefore that God exacteth of thee less than thine iniquity deserveth. Canst thou by searching find out God? Canst thou find out the Almighty unto perfection? Now he's mocking him. It is as high as heaven. What canst thou do? Deeper than hell? What canst thou know? The measure thereof is longer than the earth, and the broader than the sea. And if he cut off, those are nations now, and shut up and gather together, then who can hinder him? For he knoweth vain men, he seeth wickedness also, he will not then consider it. For vain man would be wise, though a man be born like a wild ass's coat, if thou prepare thine heart and stretch out thine hands toward him. If iniquity be in thine hand, put it far away, let wickedness dwell in thy tabernacle. For then shalt thou lift up thine face without spot. Yea, thou shalt be steadfast and shalt not fear, because thou shalt forget thy misery, and remember it is as waters that passeth away. And thine age shall be clearer than the noonday. Thou shalt shine forth, and thou shalt be as the morning, and thou shalt be secure, because there is hope. Yea, thou shalt dig about thee, and thou shalt take thy rest in safety. Also thou shalt lie down, and none shall make thee afraid. Yea, many shall make suit unto thee, but the eyes of the wicked shall fail, and they shall not escape, and their hope shall be as giving up of the ghost. He lays it out there, and now he starts to blast him. And he blasted him and says, oh, you're wicked. If you'd repent, the dude, I mean, those three friends right there just mess you up. Look at Job chapter 32. And here comes another one. Later down the road, here comes another one. You had the Eliphaz, the testimonial experience. You know that friend. Bildad, the man of traditional explanation. Zophar, the man of total estimation. He knew none of it. Now you have Elihu. Look at verse chapter 32. Look at verse 1. So these three men ceased to answer Job, because he was righteous in his own eyes. Then was kindled the wrath of Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite. He was a drunkard, by the way. Do you get it? Booze. All right. Of the kindred of Ram against Job was his wrath kindled, because he justified himself rather than God. There's his problem. He justified himself. You don't justify yourself. You don't make explanation of what you did. You can't. You don't know the explanation of it. You don't know you don't have anything. You're justified, but you don't get to justify yourself. God does. And he weighs it all out. You know, he gives a truthful expression. Elihu is just mad at everybody. He says they're all wrong. Verse 3, also against his three friends was his wrath kindled, because they had found no answer and yet had condemned Job. No help. And now he's upset. Verse 4, now Elihu had waited till Job had spoken, because they were elder than he. When Elihu saw that there was no answer in the mouth of these three men, then his wrath was kindled. And Elihu, the son of Barachel, the Buzite, answered and said, I am young, and ye are old. Wherefore I was afraid and durst not show you mine opinion. I said, days should speak, and multitude of years shall teach wisdom. That's true. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. Great men are not always wise, neither do the aged understand judgment. Therefore I said, hearken to me, I also will show mine opinion. Behold, I waited for your words, I gave ear to your reasons, whilst ye searched out what to say. Yea, I attended unto you, and behold, there was none of you that convinced Job, or that answered his words. Lest ye should say, we have found out wisdom, God thrusteth him down, not man. Now he hath not directed his words against me, neither will I answer him with your speeches. And they were amazed, they answered no more, they left off speaking. When I had awaited for they spake not, but stood still and answered no more. Finally, they get shut up. I said, I will answer also my part. I also will show mine opinion. For I am full of matter. I'm up to here with it. I'm done. The spirit within me constraineth me. Behold, my belly is as wine which hath no vent. It is ready to burst like new bottles. I will speak that I may be refreshed. I will open my lips and answer. Let me not, I pray you, accept any man's persons, neither let me give flattering titles unto man. For I know not to give flattering titles, and so doing my Maker would soon take me away. He could have become bitter toward God. Job looked for his friends and he turned around. He could have turned around and turned to God. He said he could have blasted God, and now he could have been bitter toward God. Job could have adopted the attitude of his wife. A lot of times you see men do that. Job chapter 2, verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. You know, a lot of men today buckle at that. A lot of men today bow down to that. There's churches across America that'll go to a church because their wife goes to church. Royce Myers, there you go. Any man that's in that church automatically is there for his wife. Or he's a feminine man. Many people react with bitterness toward the things God allows in their lives. The deaths of loved ones, illness, tragedies, all have the power to create bitterness within our hearts if we do not maintain proper perspective. You can make a littlest thing, the oven not working, the dishwasher not working, not having enough time to do this or to do that. You will make any reason for you to get bitter. You could. You know, have you ever most of you have you ever burned tea before? Put tea on the kettle on the stove and you let it boil for too long. You know what happens to that tea? It's disgusting. But you know, if you let something in your life that's supposed to be a refreshment in your life sit there long enough, not being watched, not being taken care of, you know what'll turn out, you know what'll happen? It'll turn to bitterness. Your happiness to bitterness very fast. David's reaction to the death of his child, look at 2 Samuel chapter 12. It's not just Job. All men are like it. Everyone is just as easy as Job was to become bitter. He could have. And no one probably would have blamed him because it was a battle between God and Satan, was it not? And he could have said, you know, why use me as a pawn? Why use me as your piece to defeat this? You know, and you know what he says to that? Does a shepherd have his way with his own? You know the verse? He does. The shepherd knows exactly what he does with his sheep. Look at 2 Samuel chapter 12, verse 13. And David said unto Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said unto David, the Lord also hath put away thy sin, and thou shalt not die. Howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme, the child also that is born unto thee shall surely die. And Nathan departed unto his house, And the Lord struck the child of Uriah's wife bare unto David, and it was very sick. David therefore besought God for the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night upon the earth. And the elders of his house arose and went to him to raise him up from the earth. But he would not, neither did he eat bread with them. And it came to pass on the seventh day that the child died, and the servants of David feared to tell him that the child was dead. For they said, Behold, while the child was yet alive, we spake unto him, and he would not hearken unto our voice. How will he then vex himself, if we tell him that the child is dead? But when David saw that his servants whispered, David perceived that the child was dead. Therefore David said unto his servants, Is the child dead? And they said, He is dead. David arose from the earth and washed and anointed himself and changed his apparel and came into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he came to his own house, and when he required, they set bread before him, and he did eat. Then said his servants unto him, What thing is this that thou hast done? Thou didst fast and weep for the child whilst it was alive. Yet when the child was dead, thou didst rise and eat bread. And he said, While the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, Who can tell whether God will be gracious to me, that the child may live? But now he is dead, wherefore should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. And David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went unto her and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. And he sent by the hand of Nathan the prophet, and he called his name Jedediah, because of the Lord. You know, if we aren't careful, we'll miss the blessing through it. That the only way he got Jonathan was one son dying. And you keep going, you read your Bible long enough, and you see how great of a man that man was. And you know, a lot of times we get so stuck at that moment. But if he didn't turn around and flip it and comfort his wife and turn around and get a happiness and get a child, and now his name is Jedediah because of the Lord. Not Solomon because he loved him, but now a child of a king. You know, if you're not careful, you will miss it. It would do folks well to remember that God's purpose in trials is not to destroy us, but to perfect us. Romans chapter 8. We're almost done. Romans chapter 8. We will most likely have to finish this another day. But it's good. Man, it is good to sit down and break all this apart and realize in a nutshell some things that we can get from it. And I've preached similar to this, not this exact thing, but I've preached similar to Job's life and never to this detailed. But you know, Romans chapter 8, verse 29. For whom he did foreknow, he also did predestinate, to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brethren. Look at Ephesians chapter 4. He named him Jedediah because of the Lord. Look at verse 29 of Ephesians chapter 4. Verse 13. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, and into a perfect man, under the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. Verse 14. That we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine, by the sleight of men and cunning craftiness, whereby they lay in wait to deceive, but speaketh the truth in love, may grow up into him in all things, which is the head, even Christ. Just as pressure, heat, and time are needed to create a diamond, the same things are needed to produce saints, to produce Christians. He could have chose not to bother with God. He could have gave up. Look at Galatians chapter 6. Verse 9. You're right there to verse 9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Don't give up. Look at chapter 3 of Galatians, chapter 3. Verse 19. Verse 1. That's a lot of verses. Verse 10, for as many as are of the works of the law are under the curse, for it is written, cursed is every one that continueth not in all things which are written in the book of the law to do them. But that no man is justified by the law in the sight of God, it is evident, for the just shall live by faith. The law is not of faith, but the man that doeth them shall live in them. Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is every one that hangeth on a tree, that the blessing of Abraham might come unto the Gentiles through Jesus Christ, that we might receive the promise of the Spirit through faith. Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth or addeth thereunto. You're not adding to anything that God says. Verse 16, now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. He said not, and to the seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is great. And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before of God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect. For if the inheritance be of the law, it is no more of the promise, but God gave it to Abraham by promise. Wherefore then serveth the law, it was added because of the transgressions, till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. And it was ordained by angels in the hand of a mediator. Now a mediator is not a mediator of one, but God is one. You know, that verse 19 is a great verse to show the law. The only point you get changed is if you take that seed. The only way. Till the seed should come to whom the promise was made. The promise was made to all, but you got to partake of that. You know, Job, what if you gave up on that? What if Job gave up on the seed of the promise and he gave it up? Satan would try to sell us down the same road. Here's what Job did. Lastly, Job kept the testimony. Job kept the testimony. Job chapter 1, and I'll close. Kept you long enough. Job chapter 1. You know, because Job's trials, because of Job's temptations, he was able to keep a testimony. Look at Job chapter 1, look at verse 20. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped and said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return hither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly. You know that testimony that Job had, you know what that entitled? That entitled a decision. And Job had a decision to make. Am I going to give in to my friends? Am I going to give in to everything else that's going in the temptation and the trials of my life? Or am I going to make a decision now, early on? I kind of, it's great that the verse is there, but it's kind of a bummer that it's there. The Lord gave us the ending in the beginning. He says, and all this, Job sinned not. Through the whole book of Job, he never messed it up. Thanks, Lord. Way to go. I could have read it and said Job gave up. Nope, I don't get that anymore. Now I get to figure out what he gets. Okay, I know he didn't sin. I know he didn't charge God foolishly. But by doing so, now is the question, but by doing so, what did Job get out of all of it? You know, Job kept the testimony. He worshiped God. Look at verse 21. And said, naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return hither. The Lord gave, and the Lord had taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. You know what he did? He worshiped. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He proclaimed, he witnessed about it. You know, he declared his faith in God. God shouldn't have to please us to get us to serve him. We love it when the Lord gives. We don't love it when he takes away. But the same God who gives is the same God who can also take things away. You think of Elijah in his dry book in 1 Kings chapter 17. By the way, sometimes trouble comes because you are in the will of God. Job was in the will of God, was he not? And he got that trouble in the will of God. So that just shows you that you're in the will of God. And if you get a trouble, hey, you got something right. But you never hold on to that. You always hold on and say, what am I doing wrong? What did I do? What did I do to deserve this? But you know what? Job got it in the will of God. And so, you know what? And he kept it. You know, and there's more to go on, but here's a little teaser. Job's testimony, there's more to it. He didn't do anything wrong. He waited on God. And because of all of that, he was able to triumph. Job realized some things, and his restoration, his reflection. You know, at the very end of it all, he still proclaimed, verse 15. Through it all, he was able to proclaim Job 13:15. So tonight I want to ask you, can you proclaim it now? Can you say, though he slay me, yet will I trust in him, but I will maintain mine own ways before him? You know what? Can I ask you now, are you going to trust in him? On the way to work tomorrow, Lord, God forbid I don't get a flat tire, but if I get a flat tire, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go call AAA, and I'm going to get it fixed. But you know what? That's not going to change my trusting in him. You know, it doesn't matter in life. You're going to get tossed with some other things. You're going to get hit with some other difficulties, some things that you didn't know before, you know now, and now it's going to be a burden to you. Now it's going to be upsetting you, and now you're going to be praying about it, thinking about it more often than you were, and now you had a choice to do it. Or is that going to mess you up? I don't know what you're promised tomorrow, but I know one thing you're promised. You're promised trouble. You can expect it. Dr. Ruckman said, prepare for the best, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's what you can do, Christian. So maybe Wednesday night we'll finish this off, but until then, keep that. Job kept his testimony in spite of all those people that came across him. And there's more verses to back all that up. I didn't go into full detail of it all for the second time, but you know what? They're out there. If you get some downtime this week, do what I just did and go into full detail about Job. And you'll find, look at every cross-reference, look at every note that's on there in your study Bible, and you'll find that it likens a whole lot more than you ever thought before. And I bet you will get a blessing out of it, because I did. I'm not just saying that just because. I couldn't shake that for a reason. That was on my heart because of joy. The fact that knowing and doing a breakdown of just those friends that came, just doing a breakdown of what they all had to say and what they were all type of, and the friends that we can liken to today, man, they're out there and they're there. I don't know what you're faced with. I don't know. I know we're on different ground now. I know we're on different opportunities and we're not like we used to. But you know what? We're able to conform with it. We're able to adapt. And some of you can see the negatives of it all, and some of you can see the pluses to it. Stay focused on the pluses to what we're going through, and it'll get you through it. All right, amen. All right. Father God, I thank you for tonight. Lord, I thank you for your church showing up tonight. And Lord, the ones that are not joined in tonight, I pray, God, they'd get a blessing. Pray, God, you bless them wherever they are, in sickness and in health, or wherever, what they're going through, whatever they're dealing with. God, if they're dealing with nothing, thank you for it. God, I pray for our church, Lord. I pray for them daily. I pray for all of them. God, I just, I can't pray and express it enough that we will all just stay in the will of God like Job. And we'll keep focused and not giving in to what's going on around us and what people are talking about around us, that we would just trust in God. And Lord, I want the attitude of Job. I don't know if I can perform it until the end, but Lord, Job knew that he can perform it in the beginning, and God, I'm thankful for that he did. And God, I pray, Lord, that we will allow us to study more about him, more about the men that you putting this Bible for us to, and these men and the women to put in the Bible for us for our learning, that we will get some things from it. And God, that we will tell everybody in our church about it, what blessing we got from the Bible, if they're willing. And God, just to get an encouragement. God, to sit down at work and to talk with Christians, Lord, it is a blessing to be able to do that now. God, I thank you for the opportunity it is. And the ones that are not saved, Lord, I thank you for the testimony that it brings around them. And God, they know that there is a separate there. There's a difference between the preacher and the other one. And God, I know there's a difference in the Christian and the lost. But God, I know there was a difference in Job's life and Job's friends. But Lord, I pray, God, we would be more like Job every day. That we would try to glean things from your book on a daily basis. And God, that we will be strengthened as a church, that we can get through this, Lord, and that we will be able to meet together again in our old habitat, Lord, in our old house where we used to meet, Lord. God, please bless the missionaries that are far off, that are dealing with the coronavirus as much as we are. And I pray, Lord, your churches will keep them on support, that they will bless them, God, and that they will continue to pray for them and to do things for them. And God, I pray, Lord, you would allow us to have revival in the end of May, and that you would allow all this to pass over, and that we will be able to meet with Brother mcgehee out of this time of quarantine. Now, what better way to be out of quarantine and starting revival? God, I pray, Lord, you would allow it to work in that manner. But if it doesn't, Lord, help us to proclaim and help us to be thankful for what you've done. And God, I pray, Lord, you bless all these things, and you bless your Christians tonight, that they would get a good night's sleep knowing that they're trusting in God tonight. And I pray, God, you be with them and you comfort them, and you give them direct, and you give them wisdom and strength where they need it. God, help them to be in their Bible and help them to be in communicating to you and in their family. God, I love you. I hope you come back soon. But until then, Lord, help us to continue on the work that you'd have us to do. God, I pray and ask these things in Christ's blessed name. Amen. All right. Everybody doing all right?
What'd you say?
Everybody doing all right?
Mm-hmm.
You guys still have hair, so that's good. Not pulling it out yet.
Plenty of it.
Except for Kevin. He goes, yep. All right, y'all. Well, all right. You were just watching me a minute ago. Want to say hi, everybody?
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, Daisy. Hi, Daisy.
So confusing. You say train? Reverse? Train?
Hey, hey, hey.
You shy?
No, shy.
No, I'm not shy.
You shy?
Dad,
What?
you oh, what?
Oh, you did it.
You won't.
We
No,
will.
no.
Where you going? Say bye.
Bye, you guys.
Blow him a kiss.
Bye.
Hi, Daisy.
Good job. All right, y'all. Well, love you. Praying for you. If you need anything, you know where I'm at.
See you Wednesday.
See you Wednesday.
Bye.